Okay, this is something that I know some of you have heard about in other classes, and this might be new for some of you that haven't had classes with Trevor. So I think he talks about this in PE 218. All right, so just two objectives here. All right, so you have to remember that when you're doing any sort of skill, it requires coordination. And when you're training for something, you want to train movements, not muscles. Okay, and so this is where that principle of specificity comes into play. All right, and this has gotten to be more and more common when you look at some of the apparatuses or exercises that people do. All right, so for example, just an easy example of this is if you look at a football lineman, they've got out on the field, they've got like those I don't know what they call, like those dummy sleds where they can get out of their stance and then generate power up to, like when they're going up against blocking somebody, okay? That's going to help them much more than just doing a bench press, okay? Because when they do a bench press, the movement is different. Yes, it will give them some strength, but ultimately they need to have strength in that movement, and so they need to be specific. It's important to know, or a way to remember this is that I don't know if it still exists, but I know about 10 or 15 years ago, there was a big push. You'd see these on infomercials late at night where people were selling these electrical stimulation apparatuses that people could wear during the day. And, they said it's going to give you rock hard abs in, like 3 days. Well, the problem is you're not actually doing anything. You're not training a movement. You're not improving your skill, your strength, or anything like that. And you're not training your central nervous system. Okay, the central nervous system is as important, arguably as important as the muscular system when it comes to generating force. If your muscles don't get the signal from the nervous system, then nothing's going to happen. And this leads into bilateral deficit, okay? And so bilateral deficit is the inability of the neuromuscular system to generate maximum force when two limbs are operating simultaneously compared to when they operate individually. So for example, or an easier way to say this is that your bilateral max is less than the sum, or the sum, just notice that, of your unilateral maxes. So for example, let's say you do a chest press with your right side, 100 pounds, chest press you max out with your left side, 100 pounds. But when you do it together, you would think, I can do 200 pounds. When in reality, you might only be able to do 190 or 195 or something, probably less than 200 pounds. Okay? So what causes the bilateral deficit? Well, to be perfectly clear, it's not known. There's a few things, theories that are out there. One is that there's reduced motor unit activation. And so the way I like to think about this is, let's just say that at max, your brain can stimulate 80 motor units at a time, okay? Well, let's say it takes 50 to do a right-sided chest press and then 50 to do a left-sided chest press. That would mean in order to have a max, you'd have to stimulate 100 motor units. If it doesn't have the ability to stimulate that many motor units, then you're not going to be able to have that max that's the sum of your individual maxes. There's also related to power, also related to muscle velocity, and it could just be you're just losing coordination. It's a more complex movement with two muscles or two sides as opposed to one. Okay, and so while it's not completely understood, it's something that exists, and we're still trying to figure out what is the exact cause.